Hi, this is Caryn and Jack Daly, and we're here for the Sales B12 episode. This is the one dose of sales you don't want to miss. Today, we're talking about how to create the most successful sales call structure. Jack, take it away.
Well, I guess, first of all, it's good to see you again, Caryn. And we're getting tremendous response in the marketplace to these B12s. So straight away, you and the door openers are incredible at getting meetings for your clients. So what are most people doing wrong when it comes to prospecting for meetings?
Well, what's really interesting about what happens on these meetings, like this is our 24th year in business, and we get our clients in the door with their prospects for the executive level meetings. And in the beginning, we would send our clients on the meetings. Over time, and now especially because most of these prospect meetings are happening via Zoom, our door opener, our senior door opener, is on the meetings with our clients to make sure they go well. Because even when our clients are senior level business developers, they don't always do the right things to structure the sales call in a way that produces the best result. And here are a couple of things that they don't do right all the time. First of all, they don't always meet with the right people. A lot of meetings doesn't necessarily translate into meetings with the right people. So they have to meet with the right people. The other thing they don't do is they don't often enough get the second meeting on the first meeting. They have to ask for that second meeting in order to get it. They have to deliver enough value to the prospect so that the prospect wants a next meeting. And sometimes they don't do that. They don't always ask the best questions. And sometimes they don't ask any questions at all. But they don't always ask the best questions that elicit the best opportunities for them so that they can take that and go down a path of dialogue that leads them to opportunities that fill their pipelines for really good, important deals. Some of the questions that I wish they would ask, including like, what's your role here? Sometimes they forget to ask that, and just researching somebody's role doesn't really tell you what they do. We had one client who was meeting with a prospect, and they thought that prospect was over one building, but actually the prospect was over 6. But they only spoke about the one. They got a good outcome, but it wasn't the best outcome if they had only asked that question. I also suggest that they ask, if everything we talk about is nirvana for you, what's the road to us working together? What paperwork needs to be signed, and who else needs to be involved? And that way, there are no surprise decision makers at the end who come in and put the kibosh. I can go on, but these are some of the things that I see go wrong, where sellers may misuse time spent with prospects and don't get as far as they could. So,
hey Caryn, I'm going to jump in on this because one of my axioms that I've talked about for over 2 decades is, very simply put, never make a call without a purpose. Mm-hmm. And the call can't be going well. The meeting can't be going well if you can't articulate before the meeting even takes place, what are you trying to achieve? And you said it earlier, sometimes the purpose of that meeting is to get a second meeting, period. Yeah.
Right. And if you start with that end in mind, you'll build the conversation to get to that outcome. The other thing that a lot of people forget about is, what does the prospect want out of this meeting? Not just what do you want? What does the prospect want? And then to make sure that you give that to them. What do you tell sellers in terms of how to structure the conversations? How do you coach them?
Well, so let's do it this way. People are asking me all the time, especially since I'm older than just about everybody in my audiences these days. How has sales changed today from selling 10 years ago or 20 years ago or what have you? And I say it's changed dramatically, and it hasn't changed at all. Things that haven't changed, selling's the transfer of trust. People do business with people they trust. That was true 20 years ago. It's even more true today. People do business with people they like, and they tend to like people that are more like them. That was true 20 years ago. It's still true. But one of the biggest changes that we've seen out there is technology, and leveraging technology. The things that a salesperson spends their time on shouldn't be what we spent our time on 10 and 15 years ago. So much of that can be leveraged in terms of leveraging social media, leveraging websites, and all of that type of thing. So I'm going to knock out 4 very quick bullet points on what am I recommending in terms of uncovering the best opportunities. The first of 4 things I say is this: hold off on doing presentations in your meetings. Look, I watch salespeople, sellers on the first call open up their laptop and start taking a prospect through their PowerPoint presentation. I'll throw you out of the building for that. You haven't done a diagnosis. You don't even know if there's a need. And you're giving me a canned presentation and not tailored to me. That just violates everything about me. And so you haven't earned the right to make a presentation, in my opinion, on a first call. The second thing that I would tell you is do your homework. My goodness, you should be able to come in so prepared today compared to 10 years ago or 20 years ago. All of the things that are available about not only the company that you're meeting with, but the person that is the decision maker. What a strategic advantage to the salesperson, the seller who does their homework. The third thing is prepare your questions before you get there. And rehearse them. Practice. What are the best questions based on the purpose of the meeting? What are you trying to achieve? And let's figure out the questions before we get there. Rather than reacting to the prospect, be the proactive person. And then the fourth suggestion that I give you here is just stop selling. People do not want to be sold. Help them to buy, help them with whatever their pain is. That's the key. And your question should be all about uncovering the pain. So I just teed up generalities. Now, Caryn, I'm going to give it back to you. How do sellers become better prepared on the call?
Yeah, well, that's a great point. And there's a couple of key things that sellers need to do. The first one, and probably the most important, is to block time on your calendar for preparation and then block time for follow-up. There are so many people now who are going from Zoom meeting to Zoom meeting to Zoom meeting, back to back to back to back to back, myself included, by the way. But if you are doing that, you have to set time aside for preparation or it's not going to get done. I like to say 3 minutes of preparation can lead to $3 million of actual sales. And that's a true story, by the way. I sat with a client one time and we were preparing her to go in and deliver a contract. And she said, oh, well, let's just email it. I'm like, why? Let's go in and talk to them about, instead of the $1 million contract that it was, let's get a $3 million contract. And she said, you're crazy. They'll never go for that. And I said, start with the end in mind. Why would they say yes to a $3 million contract when they told us they wanted $1 million? We came up with why they would do that. We made that presentation and they said yes to the $3 million. Had we not set time aside to actually do that preparation, the whole idea for asking for $3 million would never even come up and we wouldn't have gotten that. Set time aside for preparation, set time aside, of course, to make sure that you're following up within a reasonable time frame. One of the other things that people need.
Caryn, let me interrupt. Sorry, I'm interrupting your flow, but I can't let it go. Look, this point about follow-up, let me put it in this context. Companies and people are investing a tremendous amount of money and time at trade shows. Mm-hmm. And yet the overwhelming majority of sellers that are manning the booths in the trade shows have little to no follow-up. It's horrific. And the speed at which you follow up is absolutely essential. Time kills all deals. And if you want to differentiate yourself from the marketplace, be quicker than your competition on follow-up. So blocking time for follow-up, I thought was a terrific tip from your part.
Yeah, thank you. The other thing is, really watch the time. People don't manage their time well during the course of a conversation. If you have 30 minutes set up for a conversation, by minute number 23, you need to start closing up for next steps, date, and time. Minute number 23, or you may not get next steps and a date and time. If what you want out of that meeting is the next meeting, make sure that you're keeping an eye on the time, and no matter where you are in that conversation, you say, I'm watching the time for you. We have about 7 minutes to go. Let's pick another time. We're going to need a little bit more time to talk about this. Get the time set, and you can always go back to the conversation if you want to. Don't assume people can go beyond that 30 minutes, especially now when these meetings are virtual.
And Caryn, I'm in California today. It's 2:00 in the afternoon, and I have been either on Zoom calls or regular phone calls, and I've had about 8 so far today. Yeah. Every single one of them starts with this statement: I have X amount of minutes allocated for this call, and we have to be very conscious because I'm jumping onto something else soon thereafter. And so setting the parameter so that the prospect understands what we have in front of us makes it all flow that much more efficiently.
Absolutely. And here's a tip for everybody, is that when you set a meeting, make sure you get the person's cell phone number. You can say to them, look, in case the technology fails, let's exchange cell phone numbers. In the beginning of the pandemic, the technology was failing. Now it doesn't really fail all that often. But when you have the cell phone number, you have permission to use it also. So if you're on the Zoom line and somebody's a little late, you can just text them and say, I'm on the Zoom line, and be like, and then they come right to the Zoom line, and they don't miss meetings. You can use their cell phone later on in the sales process to text them and ask them for 10 minutes at the end of the day, all sorts of things like that. So make sure as a best practice that you're getting that number, and that now you have permission to use it, you can use it. Yeah.
Cool.
Did we cover everything associated with meetings?
You know what? I'm going to add just a few more things, Caryn. You know, if you want to make sure, if you're in a manager position, if you're in a leadership position, we want to make sure that our sales people are doing the right things out in those opportunities, meeting with prospects. So in my own particular style, I'm just going to knock out, 5 bullet points. The first one is, are you actively coaching your people? Are you out coaching your people on what they're doing right and what they could be doing better? So proactive coaching. The manager of a sales team, the less time you spend in front of a computer, behind a desk, and in your office, the better your salespeople are going to perform. The second is, and everyone that knows me knows that how religiously I believe in having best practices documented in a sales playbook. And I don't care what you call that, but systems and processes, best practices wins the day. The third bullet point I give the listener is practice, practice, practice. No matter what you do in life, including sales, the best people practice, and they don't practice on real deals. And a fourth bullet point is record some of your practice sessions with your salespeople. Actually, audio, video, record them, and then watch or listen afterwards with a group debrief on what was impressive and not so impressive, and what we have an opportunity to make changes on. And the last of 5 bullet points on this, in terms of getting our people to be better, is being in the field and participating with them on joint calls. If you are an active sales leader, manager, chief revenue officer, and you're out with your people and doing these types of things, your salespeople cannot help but be better when they're out doing it with the prospects.
Yeah, well said. And for the people who are listening to this call, we have 2 tools that they can write to me through the website, and we'll get them these tools. One is a meeting preparation form, so that as they're doing their preparation, they'll have the different things that they need to do to be prepared. And the other one is a self-evaluation checklist to make sure that they're doing all the right things. And then somebody can grade themselves, not just be graded by management. But I think that this was a really strong segment for us, and I hope that it was helpful for everybody who listened as well.
Hey, Caryn, and I would tell you that those 2 documents that you just referred to that are open to the listener, those are the types of things that I envision being a part of the sales playbook.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. They have to be, yes. All right, great. Well, thank you everybody for listening to the Sales B12 episode, and I invite you to listen to other ones in the series as well.